It's the start of another week. Hello there. You're watching the polls on the JoyNews channel, live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 144. I am Blessed Sogah, and coming up this afternoon on the polls, sachet and packaged water producers announce a new price list for the essential commodity just hours after President Akufo-Addo's address. A litre of treated water will now sell at 5 Ghana cedis. We have the latest for you.
Manu 10 pieces. 10 a day, 5 boni unu chuone, in one wa. Lebi benima ken wo jalanta almost enu formu. Bako unu baje. Person say wanya wo he.
And we'll get some reactions on the streets of Accra. Also, President Akufo-Addo says the country is in a crisis. This afternoon on the polls, we revisit the address that has got every citizen talking.
I know that the increasing cost of living is the #1 concern for all of us.
What more is contained in the president's address? We'll tell you about that, and let's work together as a team. That's the plea from the newly appointed Acting Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Dr. Eric Nkansa, as he fully assumes post this week. We'll hear from the Director General. Remember that this is the Pulse. JoyNews is independent, fearless, and credible. The Pulse, as always, is brought to you by Global Communities, Dignilu, Affordable Safe Sanitation. Don't forget that we are also streaming live on YouTube, and all of our social media handles is at JoyNews on TV. Feel free to be a part of the show. We'll see you with the details shortly. And this afternoon, sachet and bottled water prices are up on the streets starting today. The National Association of Sachet and Packaged Water Producers explained that the reason for the hike is due to the surge in the cost of production. For now, sachet water will be sold at 60 pesos. The 500 ml bottle water will also be retailed at 2 cedis 50 pesos, while the medium-sized bottle of water will also go for 3 cedis 50 pesos. But in terms of the 1.5 litre bottled water, it's now selling at 5 Ghana cedis. So you have excerpts of the products there and what it will mean. In fact, you have the back of water selling in some mini shops as well for as much as 15 Ghana cedis. That's where we're heading towards in terms of the new pricing arrangements. And so what's accounting for this and why a price is going up just a day after the president raised concerns of the escalating prices of goods and services on the market. Let's speak now to Richard Kwame, his Vice President of the Packaged Water and Sachet Water Producers Association. Thank you so much, sir, for your time here on the polls. The president says that we're in a crisis. Of course, the belief is you try and come through for a lot of Ghanaians who are having some hard time already coping with the escalating prices of goods and services. We'll come to you shortly, Richard. I just want to welcome you onto the show, but take a listen first of all to some people reacting to this very surge in the price.
10 pieces. 10 a day, 5 boni unu chuone, in one wa. Lebi benima ken wo jalanta almost enu formu. Bako unu baje. Person say wanya wo he. Inya ma he. E wa bia na boni emi wa. Kenya sachet bag ye boni here shaka mi ba ma lo iko ma ba ma anu kem wo le ice pon ye okay wo kemi ba ma bomode ma wo shopping bag bibi na ko bonu wo hele bag ma kula ko ma wo mi ka ba because 60 pesos e dey mi wa mi nya 50 pesos se mi nya sika meti me to pure ba for me
40 pesos a unya usika de woman ya can say 50 pesos wo ubi some 50 me ba ma okita 50 ma mo Asia me ton 50 B2 40 pesos 25 awake 25 balaka 25 ketwan dem nton bi
boarding because pure to buy first 10 pesos and about 20 pesos e boarding enti ente sumaye e obenum enti say yen to me nto boarding so what I say yen to me nto e boarding why enta monte sumaye why na man pronka bi man na say wiase na e kone de je nyame ye fese enroba ka bi waka hwi papa bi ankyere ya asem ka kyen say nyame beye wanka hwi ankyere ye tutu stores wanka se papa bi ankyere ye
atane de omo hwe man kakra ne boarding dodo omo nte so kakra man omo hwe omo o be to ne sa ba omo hwe na omo ye hu bibi kakra man se se omo ani man ye nyina ye boabo ye hu nti usisi unyanko sa enye
sisi Nyama boy, this suaka kansu, sister pesos. Oh, Casa to me, Ubanum. Nansu, I have a panaca shampoo, Mukata shampoo, say, oh, to Yamanusu. Aku faro shampoo, Mr. Beauty. Oza don't tell me friend shampoo, me boafu pa. Say me nana. No betting, me can't no betting Yaman walk or high. Why, President? Why? Why? Aku faro why? Yawo, nana yawu. Nana baby ya nana baby my why? It's so pipe, it's so. Bisabi to yawo, bisabi to yawu. Bibi ya kuma Mr. Beauty. Pure water. And to be by a dear, one me to the Usayani Bonsu. Me to be no more than 6. In so no see Yanoba Uba Quaba. And to me no so 6 I Miss Bachamin Coach could have created mammy. The American Samoye be woman.
The concerns on the streets there, basically a lot of them are asking the water producers to try and rework their margins. Let's bring in Richard Kwame, who's the Vice National Chairperson or President of the Association of Sachet and Packaged Water Producers. Thank you so much for your time, Richard. So how is this coming to you? The fact that your customers are beginning to feel the pinch of that increment in the products that you're putting on the market. This is water.
Yeah, first of all, good afternoon to your listeners. It's unfortunate we are here, and as producers, we actually do empathize with the citizens on the impact of our recent increase starting today on their livelihood. It's unfortunate, but to be honest with you, we have done our possible best to avoid it. Honestly, we've done everything we can to continue to serve the citizens at the minimum cost that we can. And to be honest with you, the current increment of which affects our mothers, our sisters, not complaining. It's not a complaint. It's a genuine sentiment, the pain, the stress that everybody is going to. We honestly empathize with everybody. That's why even in our increment, we were mindful and we took the minimum option that was available to us. Let me run you through this. We don't work with dollars. We water producers directly. We do not import the plastic pallets, the plastic films used for the manufacture of the film that we don't import it. The diesel fuel that we put on our cars, we do not import that thing. So we do not work with dollar directly. We deal directly with Ghana Cedi, and we price our products in Ghana Cedi. For the past 2-3 weeks, diesel, as at our last increment was selling at 11 Ghana Cedis per liter, the highest in the country that we operate in. We work all across the country. It was 11 Ghana Cedis per liter. Today, today we have moved a little up. It's selling around 16 to 17 Ghana Cedis per liter. We use diesel. The size that our trucks runs on the average in our last increment, the size was costing 1,600. Here, Mighty, Reno was costing around 1,800. Today, as I'm talking with you, when you go for the same size, you are going to pay around 2,500 for the smaller one, which used to be 1,000, over 3,000 for the bigger one. That is about 27% increment. Fuel has gone up almost 35%. The plastics that we buy from the rubber manufacturers, as at last increment, we are buying a tonne at 25,000 Ghana Cedi. For the last 3 weeks, that only God knows what happened before the dollar was just jumping like that. We are buying today the same tonne at 36,000 Ghana Cedi, an increase of 11,000 Ghana Cedi, representing 44%. So with just these three components I've mentioned to you, our input costs have gone up more than 100%.
But the challenge, but the challenge,
last 3 weeks alone.
yeah, but the challenge we're facing here is the kind of product you're putting on the market is not, for instance, any normal sort of product. You're dealing in an essential commodity. You do agree that we need water daily. So that's how delicate the matter is right now.
Yes, I do. That is why we emphasize. We do agree with you. So, as I told you, I was explaining, our costs have gone up over 100%. But the current increment is 38.4%. And the last 2 weeks, we sent a distress press release to government, calling on government to take a look at the package industry and help us to overcome some of these increments as a result of the dollar going against the cedi. We are still waiting on government. If today government comes and take a look at the industry and is able to cushion us, why not? We are providing essential service. But mind you, we are one service provider that's in COVID. We were not giving any support, but we did not go hiding like others did. We were still in operation. We were still supporting the public. We supported everybody with clean and treated water. That is the dilemma we find ourselves as producers.
Oh, okay, so what will it take you now? What will it take you? What will it take you at this? I'm sorry for cutting through. What will it take you at this point to reduce the prices of the sachet water and the packaged water? What would it take you immediately to try and deal with the prices?
A couple of things, okay? A couple of things. It's unfortunate that it's only water when it is increased, then everybody gets jittery. Or before somebody remember that there are people in this country who produce wholesome water and they are serving the citizens. It's only water. Cement have been increased, nobody spoke. Iron rod have been increased, nobody spoke. Today we've gone up. Lorry fares to shut up, but nobody is talking about that. But mind you.
Hello, Richard. Richard, are you with us? Okay, it appears that we've lost Richard there, but for those of you who are not aware of this recent price increment, there you have it on the screens in terms of the new adjustment to the water prices. Sachet water, pure water as you popularly call it, 50 pesos. It's gone up plus 10. So 60 pesos is the new price list now. For those of you who want to have the 500 ml bottle, you now get that at 2 cedis 50 pesos instead of the previous price range of 2 Ghana cedis. But then it shoots up more when you're dealing with a 1.5 liter bottle. So it's somewhere around 5 cedis on the market now, and that of the bag of water may go up to 15 Ghana cedis in terms of depending on the type of shop you're buying that from. Earlier, you're just hearing from the Vice President of the National Association of Sachet and Packaged Water Producers explaining reasons for which this new price list is being put out there. Operation cost has shot up by over 100%. So that's the situation as we speak. Meanwhile, President Akufo-Addo has been addressing us on the economy. Last night, the president admitted that the country is in a crisis. The president is, however, conceding that irrespective of how woefully the economy is performing, he's set out to fix the economy.
Our reality is that our economy is in great difficulty. The budget drawn for the 2022 fiscal year, that is this year, has been thrown out of gear, disrupting our balance of payments and debt sustainability, and further exposing the structural weaknesses of our economy. We are in a crisis. I do not exaggerate when I say so. I cannot find an example in history when so many malevolent forces have come together at the same time. But, as we have shown in other circumstances, we should turn this crisis into an opportunity to resolve not just the short-term urgent problems, but the long-term structural problems that continue to bedevil our economy.
Okay, so that's the position of the president. But what do you think about the address of the president? We've been engaging some Ghanaians on that.
Said that the president gave an address regarding the economy on ways to revive or restore the current economic situation in the country. And we have been interacting with some residents here in the Ashanti region, and here's what they've been telling us.
To be very honest, no, he didn't. Why would I say so? So what we're expecting from Nanado's speech was a speech of reassurance. Ghanaians were expecting him to give us a speech that would make us feel happier. Russia-Ukraine war, COVID, these are conversations we've heard everywhere. We hear it every single day happening. Now the question is, what are we supposed to see? You still get us hearing blames of we are not paying taxes. Then the question is, what happened to e-levy? You hear him telling us about inflation rates. What exactly are the kind of differences we're expecting to see? We didn't get any of that from the speech yesterday. For me, I felt like it was a below par speech for the president, and it's not something we were supposed to see. Why would I say such a thing? Notice fully well that after the speech, it didn't calm anybody down. People are angry this morning. When I even entered the Trotsky to Tech Junction, everybody in the car was angry. The only big thing you hear is Sika Mpedede. So what do you get from the Sika Mpedede? Is it that we are the ones making the noise, or the money is the one making the noise? We think we need more clarity, because most of the things are like, they are just there. We are not getting the kind of impact we have to have.
So why are there? But I fail. Nobody, how many years in it? Any 6 and can 2 years. I fail mom. And I'm about to no. And I'm sure I'm cash matrima.
The president's address did not go down well. If he knew these measures earlier, he would have implemented them, but not now, when he is about leaving office. Even his comments about money disliking noise was unhealthy.
Na twas be 40 something no and this can almost this can pay the design you can this can pay the which has any design scam pay the then say will you show off me bona yes and them sanka way o chaka way and the VAT ni ade essan so scam pay the no
ye tirimu aden and no ma bi wo ho say ya dwene ye nipa no o man ni nipa ni nyina ho and no ma na too much nyo ma mpanyen na say obi amfa anwanye 1.2 akoto ade 50 cedis 5 million.
We as a people must be considerate about the profit margins we want to make. We are in all this together. Even though the president is putting in place some measures, it can't restore the economy.
Especially tax 2 million because of so argument, but yet one count.
Oh, if we saw to me and Sabe Ghana, if you say, your Kafuel market all can once MCC last time in the next 3 days going up there with Cocotofu, I mean, you should diesel car. The top for 18.99 pesos in Ghana as a per liter. Now, if you say the consumer of it, maybe I'm one more here.
I think what he is rolling out would help, especially with the fuel. Some of us aren't breaking even. So if he is in talks with international fuel marketers for affordable ones, then it should help.
Around 3:30. Now, new time I was a pump, but my numbers are before I am consumed a day. Now, Borosa, my food on the side, but me just coming here and so, Mammy a day, a poco fee. Tis a bit my filling station should be on us, or bit mama prices in a from Kakana, Yensu, Hoba Harry, and Kaifuse, Capable in Semaya, the Ama name my power.
Memo is a uncle who didn't know because who must speak, you know, or say a friend say, over to Akuchiaso. Now, I could tell us over better so no.
His speech was empty. He indicated he was going to cut down on some government salaries, which I doubt he would.
We need after we team no good in our no I can say I go for me president but step it down Nanka Ghana for Nkabo say Yobosi Nakasa Bakasa say
So generally residents here in the Ashanti region are saying that the president's address yesterday on the economy is only a knee-jerk reaction. They were actually hoping that the president would take pragmatic steps, including the removal of Ken Oforiatta, who is the finance minister from Post. From here at Kumasi, my name is Emmanuel Bright Kweku.
The concerns from the Ashanti Regional Capital, Kumasi. I want to hear now from former Deputy Finance Minister Kweku Ricketts-Hagan, who is joining us via phone now. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you for your time here on the Pulse. So, your initial reaction, the President first of all concedes that indeed we have a crisis, but he's fixing it.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to you and your listeners and viewers. Can you hear me, please?
Loud and clear.
All right. I was having some challenges connecting with you via Zoom. The President left a lot of questions unanswered, more than he actually came to answer. I think the problem that this government has is that the communication that we usually get from of the President lacks clarity, or from the government in general. It lacks clarity and is usually uncertain. Yesterday he was talking about, people speculating and doing propaganda and talking the economy down. Look, it is actually the government that is talking the economy down. Because when you make statement or when you address the nation and it is still muddy, it is not clear and it is not certain, then you leave room for people to speculate and have other views on what you intend to do. There is no clarity in anything that he actually said, maybe one or two. First of all, let's look at the debt situation, which is the elephant in the room. Now, we have a debt, of over 500 million, and then the president saying, which is almost about over 100% of GDP. The president is saying that we are going to bring the debt down to 55% in 2028. The government doesn't tell us, or the president doesn't tell us, how we are going to leap from where we are to that figure he mentioned in 2028. There are no steps as to what we are going to do in end of 2022, 23, 24, which is basically out of power, 25 and 26. When we don't have such a clear plan, anybody at all can say anything and say we'll get the debt. Well, that's what we all want to get the debt to. But then how are we going to do it? Still is the question that has not, the president has not been able to answer. When you talk about the currency, which is basically crippling us at the moment, the depreciation of the cedi, which is basically gotten out of hand, the president talks about new monies coming in. Now, the question is it the money that we are already expecting, which is the cocoa syndicated loan, which, of course, when it comes in will help? Or is there any other money that the president has negotiated or the government has negotiated that is going to come in? In the past, we know we get cocoa syndication, we know we get Eurobond following that, and that we know that we have enough in our reserves to be able to prop up the reserves and cushion the currency. There is no such thing as the market now. So it's coming in, in drips. So is that the new monies that the president is actually talking about? Or is this something that we don't know?
Be it as it may, on the forex market, it appears that the cedi is responding favorably. We've seen at least a marginal decline in terms of how the US dollar is appreciating against the cedi. So given that fact, could it not be the case that indeed speculation could be triggering
it looks as if we are living by the day. Obviously, if the president's statement or the president's address indicate that some money is coming in soon, then obviously people expect straight away that is going to be the cocoa syndicated loan. So, of course, the market will react. But we are at the moment living by the day. It's become a day-to-day existence where we hear this money is coming in and then something small happens and then we go back to where we were, or even worse. We don't seem to have a long, short-term, medium-term plan as to how we are going to, the president is going to get us out of the mess that we are in at the moment. He talks about doing things with GRA to be able to increase our revenue. Look, this is a conversation we've been having for years, that we don't generate enough revenues and we are around, 11 to 13%. We need to get to 18, like our peers and all that. Now, working with the GRA, yes. But what exactly is the president going to do or the government going to do for us to be able to get to around the 18 or the 20% that we've been talking about? The problem is that when we say all these things and we think we are communicating obviously to the citizens in terms of, giving them some hope, in terms of communicating with the business community and the international community, in terms of bringing, confidence into the market, and then obviously the government's own credibility, talking to us in a way that we will have to believe that the government actually means what they say and they are going to actually do. To tell us that there's not going to be any haircut. Yes, great. It will buy you a few CDs for a day or two. The question the market wants to know is that your debt is not sustainable. We have all established that.
Right.
That the World Bank, IMF is saying our debt is not sustainable.
Be that as
the IMF doesn't lend money to people who don't have a sustainable debt.
Be that as
so
it may,
the
president. Be that as it may, the president is giving us a clear sign that he is hopeful we'll get the IMF bailout by the end of the year.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, I'm saying be that as it may, in terms of how unsustainable our debt situation may be, the president is giving us a sense that we may be getting the bailout by end of year. December.
Well, that is not, look, the bailout on its own is not going to resolve our problems. So many things will have to happen. If we get a bailout, that will give us a temporary relief. It doesn't resolve our unsustainable debt situation. So the question then becomes, first of all, even for us to be able to get a program, unless IMF changes the conditions upon which they give this facility, or upon which you can get into this program, it is clear IMF does not lend to countries that have debt unsustainability issues. And we clearly have. If you have, and you still want to get on the program, you need to restructure your debt. What is restructuring your debt? One form of restructuring is the haircut. The president is categorically clear that we are not going to have a haircut. So what other form of restructuring is the country looking at? Because basically, if the structure of your loans are not sustainable, that you cannot be able to pay your loan long term, that is why you are restructuring from the current loan structure that you have, which makes it impossible for you to pay your debt. So you are restructuring it. Normally, when you restructure any loan, it hits the creditor, the person who lent the money to you, and those who lend the money to the creditor to lend it to you, i.e. the banks, the insurance company, the pension funds, and what have you. So if you're not going to get a haircut, what kind of pain are we going to inflict to these creditors?
Okay.
That's what we want to know.
Right.
Now, it is a vague statement to say that we are not going to get a haircut. Does that mean we are not going to restructure?
Okay.
If we are going to restructure, what are we restructuring? Because we thought we were going to restructure domestic debt. Now it looks as if we are not, that's where the haircut was going to happen. Now it looks as if we are not even going to get a haircut. In that case, are we even restructuring the domestic debt or not? Or are we now looking at restructuring the foreign debt? A lot of questions have been left unanswered.
Indeed.
And that is what leads to speculation, not propaganda. Because a lot of the people who are talking are people who understand these things. Economists are talking, finance people are talking, people who understand these things. And now, if you want to give an alternative view on the economy, you are seen as if you are seen as someone who is talking the economy.
And part
we cannot live in a country like that.
Right. And part of the question that many have been asking, one has got to do with the fate of the finance minister.
If you can raise your...
At least the minority, your side of the house, you are clear enough in starting the process of trying to get a vote of censure against the finance minister. The president has been silent on that. in his address as to what may happen after the IMF negotiations with regard to...
Again, that is a difficult area. Yes, clearly, we want the finance minister out, and there are reasons for that. And recently, we have been joined by our colleagues on the other side of the government demanding same. For me, it's simple. A man who doesn't believe in the IMF, who said we will never go to the IMF, who said we are a proud nation and we're going to do it ourselves, who talked down the IMF, then the IMF is basically up to no good and that we can do things ourselves, makes a U-turn and now goes to the IMF and is telling us that he's the same person who is going to negotiate with the IMF, the institution that this person doesn't believe in. What sort of negotiation are we going to get? And then when we do get one, as he had told our colleagues who went to see him, if we do get one, so Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta is negotiating a deal that will be implemented by somebody else. Or is the president just buying time and come up with a different story? We said we'll never go to the IMF. We said all sorts of things. Eventually we did. We said we are not going to get a haircut. Now, what is the credibility in the president's statement? Looking at his previous statement or the previous statement by the government, where a lot of things were said about the IMF program and eventually they've entered up there. How should I, as an investor, a business person, or a citizen in this country, believe anything that the president says? And that a few days down the road, they will not come and change the story for us.
Interesting questions there, but I'm grateful for your time. That's the former Deputy Finance Minister, Ricketts Hagan, joining us here on The Pulse. We're grateful for your time. But for those of you who are not aware of how the market reacts, let's speak to a forex trader, Stephen Kwashi, who is an analyst with Calculus FX. They understand how the markets work in terms of currency. And Stephen, it's a good time to be talking to you. Welcome to The Pulse. Now, are we able to get even the official figures as we speak? Some say, well, it's $1 to 15 cedis. Some say it's 1 to 13.75. What's the rate at which we're trading right now?
So I think I'll first of all thank you for the opportunity that you've given to me, and a very good afternoon to your listeners. So what we are looking right now in the market is the rate. First of all, we need to understand that we have the interbank rate and we have the rate that is given to the normal citizen or the consumers. One of the things people mistaken is that recently the Bank of Ghana, through its Twitter handle, have been posting FX rate. And people think of that rate as the normal rate that they go to the bank to get. It's very confusing. So I feel like it needs to be clear, even though it is written there that it is the interbank rate. Okay, but it needs to be clear because it is a way they are using to tell people that the rate is coming down. Because if you watch the comments, everybody says, oh no, I've checked Google, even though it is not right to check Google to look at the rate. The rate there. Yes, but people do that. People check different means that they use to get the rate. So it needs to be clear that the interbank rate is the rate.
And that's precisely why I'm asking the question as to what rate we're dealing with now. On the market, on the average, if you go into the markets right now, what's going to be that average you're going to be dealing with?
So we are looking at something like 15 cities.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's not those, it's coming down?
No. Bank of Ghana posted 13.01. That was as at Friday, 27th. You know, those rates are the interbank rates. We, the normal consumers, we people who go to the bank to acquire dollars for our business transactions, we don't use those rates. Okay, so it needs to be clear. So
that's why we need clarity. What influences that largely? The fact that I still walking, BOG says it's 13 cities and I still walking and I get to that 15.
15.
Yes.
So is
it based on how many people are going in for the dollars at a particular point? Yeah. Or how does it really work?
So the price determination of the exchange rate is mainly based on demand and supply.
Okay.
It's basic demand and supply. So the exchange rate system, we have three main categories of exchange rate system. We have the free float system and we have the fixed rate system. In between it, we have the managed float. So if you look at our currency system we are using, we are looking at the managed float system. So it is mainly driven by the demand for the dollar. So if people are demanding more dollar, the dollar is going to rise. Do you get it?
And this is which system you're referring to now?
This is the float system.
The float system.
Yes.
Okay.
It is the interaction between the demand and supply.
And the supply, right.
So people cannot just influence
what happens
the
in
exchange
the market,
rate.
right.
So when I hear that Sikam PDD, you know, if you talk down...
Yeah, and by that, the president is referring to speculation.
Speculation.
And how it affects, influences the market.
Speculation affects the market. There's no doubt.
Okay.
It affects the market. Okay, but the magnitude of it, $6.6 trillion is exchanged over the forex market every day. How much do we have? How much does one speculator has? So we have to look at the root cause, the fundamental of
So what you're saying is you doubt how much of an influence speculation could have at this point on the city?
So first of all, we look at the fundamentals, okay?
Right.
So speculators are looking at the fundamentals, and they've seen that the fundamentals are not strong. So if the fundamentals are not strong, it exposes the economy. Then the speculators may take advantage of it. So if there is nothing...
So it's normally a tie-on effect, right? Yeah. They look at some of your profiles and how poorly you're doing in some aspects of the economy, and then begin to speculate on that. So it won't happen in a vacuum.
No.
But then, in terms of magnitude, are you saying that if I speculate, if we have a lot more people, credible sources, speculating that the city is not performing well, that's not going to affect the market? Is that what you're telling us?
So the magnitude is very low. Okay, so we look at the economy. You know, something happened. We have this forex trader called George Soros.
Okay.
And it happened to the Great Britain, which is historically known as the Black Wednesday.
Okay, right.
Okay, so the British currency was marked against the Dutch mark. Okay, so at the point, the currency of the Britain was coming down, but the government keep pumping money inside, buying it. You know, those things are short-term measures. They don't do anything. In the short term, it just vanishes.
So you're saying right now that even if we go in, look at the forex we're expecting, the syndicated loan and all of these forex that we're expecting, your belief is it will just be a flash in the pan?
It's just a drop. It's not going to do anything to the market. Just maybe in the short term. Look at it, we are entering into December.
Right.
People are going to do more imports.
Transactions.
More imports. Okay. People are going to demand the dollar. So bringing these small monies into the economy is not much.
And I guess that's where the president says, okay, we'll revise our notes. We'll try and produce some of the items in the country.
Yeah, that's the way forward. We need to look at that, because if you have a closed economy, you see, depreciation of the city wouldn't worry you if you produce everything inside. If you get all your raw materials inside, you wouldn't worry about the depreciation of the city. But in the case where we have to import everything, we import tomatoes, we import toothpaste, we import everything. Those are the things that are going to put pressure on the city.
Okay, I want us to talk about the black market. Okay. It's come up many times. The BOG is trying so hard to crack down on these illicit forex trading. What's the impact in terms of how significant it could be?
Yeah, because when you look at the black market, you know, they have a lot of the currencies.
Okay. So they have the cash.
Currencies. But you ask yourself, who give them this currency? These people are even close to commercial banks. You ask yourself, who gave it to them? And their rates that they charge is not official. So at any point in time, they can just change the rates. At any point in time.
Okay, so they change. They don't respect the market rules.
Not at all. According to how much you are even bringing on board, then they can determine, you can negotiate with them that, okay, I'm bringing maybe $100,000, you know, let's use this rate. So the rate is not fixed. And they also push in a lot of fake currencies, which goes a long way to still affect our currency. Because everybody wants dollars, Because if you don't have a need for dollars, there is no way, there is no need to go in for dollars, unless maybe you want to use dollars for import something. Okay, so this is where it goes a long way to affect business people. Business people want stability of the currency. It doesn't. So when it stays at 15 and it's going to stay at 15 in a long term, there is no problem. because the businessman
wants stability, I guess. Okay.
And is planning.
And that's why I'm happy you're raising that point, because what's the outlook feeling like in terms of what we may be experiencing in the coming months? Because a lot more of the business community, I mean, people working in there would want to know, do projections and see what I need to be trading with at the end of the year.
Yeah.
What's the outlook?
So, in fact, when you look at the Forex chart, the USD Ghana cedis chart is very depressing. For a long time, we have not seen even a retracement. It's just shooting. We've not seen.
Okay, so it keeps going up.
It keeps going
That's
up.
how the curve is working.
Going up. There is no retracement. And any hint of a retracement will also bring in a lot of people to buy it up. So, looking at future outlook, we are looking at 20. It will go to 20.
No, but I mean, come on.
It will go to 20.
Give us some hope, at least.
When
20 cities just to exchange $1.
Yes.
By the end of the year.
Let's look at the rate of depreciation. And if you look at the rate of depreciation and the trend we are taking, the intervention government is bringing in, these are not root intervention. It doesn't go down to the root. It's just artificial intervention. We are just postponing the problem. It's just a matter of time. It will catch up with us. We are just postponing the problem.
Okay, but then this will be reliant on some factors, I believe.
Yes.
That if we are able to, for instance, get the IMF deal at the end of the year, that's what the president is hoping for. Some experts believe it may go beyond this year. If we don't get the IMF deal this year, it's going to 20. Is that your belief?
As for the IMF deal, I don't even want to talk about that because I don't know what great impact is going, because it's a loan and you are going to pay it. If you take USD or you take the dollars, you are going to pay back in dollars anyway. So as I'm saying, we're just
delaying our problems.
We are delaying it, and it's not going to help us. We need to go back and tackle the problem from the roots.
It appears you're not giving us any sense of hope at this point.
No, I'm not myself. I'm not happy.
Right.
I'm very depressed when I look at the chart. I'm very depressed, and I don't see the way out. Okay, but there is something that we need to look at about the currency market. When we started before independence, okay, we had a currency board, which is the West African, currency board.
Right.
Okay,
right.
So we were using that board, and the currency that we were issuing was the African pound, African pence, and the likes. So when we got independence, we shifted. Okay, we brought Bank of Ghana as the monetary authority to control our cedi. So then they brought Ghana pound. Okay, so then Kwame Nkrumah also came. He said, no, we don't need this Ghana pound. We need our own currency. And they brought a cedi. I'm just giving this track record that we really need to go back. We need to look at a currency board. I believe Ghana needs a currency board.
Yeah, but what you are asking us to do is to begin to control the markets when indeed we are running a free system. That would be challenging.
Maybe probably we don't like a free system. A free system will not help us because we've seen from the chart.
I mean, we're beyond controlling the markets now, you agree?
And it's really sad for a country that we have gold, a country that we have cocoa. Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, largest export, producer of cocoa. Even if we can back our currency with gold, we mine gold in this country. If we can back our currency with gold, it comes with its own challenges. But when we do that and we peg our currency, we will do better. Anyway. Because as I said, the businessman is not interested in the free fall of the cedi. They are looking at the stability so that they can plan with their business.
Okay, Stephen, we have to go. What will be your message to Ghanaians, those who especially deal in the market? You deal a lot in the market.
I do a lot.
So
we watch the market.
What's your prediction and what do you have to share with them by the end of the year?
One thing I would say is that let us not panic.
Right.
If you panic, you failed. If you have some money on the side, don't panic, don't be in a rush because the government is going to bring interventions. And in the short term, the interventions will, in a way, affect the market. Just relax and watch the market and do what you have to do. And my message to the government is that let us go back and look at the root cause. Let us not make certain artificial intervention. It wouldn't do anything to the market. This market is 6.6 trillion transactions every day. Your $1 billion wouldn't do anything to it. Your $2 billion in and out wouldn't do anything to the market. Let us watch the thing in this perspective, and we can build a better currency.
Okay, then. So you're hearing it from the expert, Stephen Kwashi. Happens to be an analyst with calculus. Of course, they're dealing a lot of forex. So that's the prediction for you. We'll be back after this break. When we return, we'll talk about controversies surrounding the appointment of the new acting Director General for the Ghana Education Service. He has a word or a message to all teachers. We'll get that shortly. And you're welcome back. Let's work together as a team. That's the plea of the new acting Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Dr. Eric Nkansah. Fully resumes post this week. Now, the government appointee is facing stiff opposition from the National Council of the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, which is giving an ultimatum to government, November 4, as they indicated, for President Akufo-Addo to revoke his appointment even before the dust settles. Another teacher union this afternoon called on the acting director to stay in office and asked all teachers to support him. They believe that Dr. Nkansah has the proven track record to ensure that education is on track. Well, President of the Teachers Forum, Michael Mensah, has been speaking to the media on their concerns.
We hear that Dr. Eric Nkansah has been appointed the acting Director General Ghana Education Service, and hearing that, we thought it wise to come and pay him a visit, congratulate him, and then rally our support behind him. And then also to offer some few critical pieces of advice to him. On this premise, I want the teaching fraternity here in the country to come together for all of us to rally our support behind him. Because we know he is capable of delivering to the expectation of all. Because quite the few days that he was appointed, we've seen what he has been doing. For now, he has been patrolling or visiting some schools within the Greater Accra metropolis. And then we hope and do believe that he's going to make it for other regions to also have a first-hand interaction with him. As he goes, he interacts with management, teachers, and then students at large, to share with them his policies and what he is capable of doing. And then looking at his background, he is a true educationist, somebody who has taught at the basic level. He also taught at Kintampo Senior High School, and then he has been a lecturer of good standing, a senior lecturer, of course, at the university for 12 good years. So with this, we do believe we have that edge to believe that Dr. Eric Nkansah is more than qualified and capable of administering or spearheading the affairs of the Ghana Education Service here in the country. With his banking background, we know teachers, we have challenges with respect to promotion, IPPD, salary structure, arrears, and whatever. Somebody who has this background will be able to streamline things. The discrepancies with respect to our salaries, the salary levels in the GES, he will be able to streamline it. We've done a bit of research about him before coming here. That when he was the director in charge of tertiary education, he helped 72 tertiary institutions, the salary level and whatever is due them, to be carried forward for them to enjoy. There were a section of teachers in the Volta region who were also complaining about promotion. They have something that
Apologies for that, but we can now hear from the acting Director General himself, Dr. Nkansah, who has been assuring that he will work with all stakeholders to ensure that the President's vision of transforming the education sector is on track.
President of the Republic, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, for appointing me to act in this position as the Director General of GES. I would rather not have said much, as we have had all the discussions behind closed doors. I just want to let you know, as teachers, that I have come for you. The president of the land has already created the vision for Ghana in terms of education. The president of the land, through the Ministry of Education, is currently pursuing lots of reforms, all of it coming together to making sure that we create the 21st century learner. In other words, to making sure that we create learners who are imbibed with the critical thinking, who are imbibed with all the skills that one needs to survive within the 21st century skills, within the 21st century. Beyond that, we have been saying, and here is not just saying, the vision of the president is that the transition rate between the secondary school and the tertiary space, where you have just about 33% of our youth progressing to the tertiary level, it's something that should be a thing of the past. We should not be happy with that. We should push and making sure that at least, if not for anything at all, about 70% of our learners move on to the tertiary level. So that is the charge that has been put before us. And I say us because you are all my colleagues, that we are coming to work together to ensuring that at the end of the day, we achieve this kind of outcome. But I also know that in achieving such an outcome, you would need to, as a matter of urgency, create enabling environment for the teacher. You would need, as a matter of urgency, create an enabling environment also for the Ghanaian child, the learner. So coming into office, I am actually clear in my mind that the teachers' welfare needs to be attended to. And I earlier mentioned to you in closed doors some of the things that I have done in that area in supporting teachers to making sure that their challenges are resolved and resolved in timely manner. I have met with some groups already, and I have taken note of all the concerns and the issues. I met with TEU just last week, and I took note of all the concerns that they brought, and I'm meeting up with you. I have met with some other interest groups, and even before I took the office, I learned some of the issues, mostly IPPD related issues, promotion, upgrading. These are all things that will not make the teacher happy in class. And so my focus would be to making sure that the teacher is happy. And once the teacher is happy, obviously you will create happy learners and then a happy country. So my pledge to you is that, one, we are going to work together as a team, rallying behind the vision of the president of the land for this country in terms of education, and then the ministry's policies that are being churned out will be working together for their implementation, and then we'll be making sure that the teacher in class is actually not facing difficulties and challenges in the discharge of their duties. And that is what I'll be working on. We also know that, I mean, especially in the secondary schools, there are quite a few challenges when it comes to even consumables, when it comes to some supplies. We are working fervently with the PSHS to making sure that there will be timely supplies of all the things that you would need to be able to have a good classroom environment. So on that note, I'll thank you so much for this visit, and I thank the media.
Well, it's time now to focus on law. In July this year, President Akufo-Addo signed into law a bill that officially introduced plea bargaining into the administration of criminal justice in the country in respect of all offences. But how will this transform the administration of justice? Or of what benefit will this be to us? So let's speak to the expert to help us understand this new law and its benefit to us. Rebecca Kwashi is a legal associate, Law and Development Institute, LADA Institute, and Cletus Alenga is also legal consultant for LADA Institute. Thank you, gentlemen and lady, for joining us here. So ladies first, correct? So yeah, we need to practicalize this. So if we're saying plea bargaining, it's as though we're saying, okay, I've offended, I say yes, I have done so, but give me a limited time. Is that the correct notion to hold about this?
Not entirely. That's not entirely
okay, right.
The notion. The concept basically addresses the right to trial. And so constitutionally, every accused person has the right to be presumed innocent until that accused person has either pleaded guilty or has been proven guilty. So in the proof of guilt is done in a full trial. So plea bargaining is essentially saying that the accused person can opt to forfeit that right to full trial in exchange for a benefit from the prosecution. So in summary, that should be the concept. That is the concept. The accused person forfeits that right to a full trial in exchange for a benefit from...
Okay, so Cletus, what then happens if the person wants to forfeit that and just go through the plea bargaining process?
Yeah, so just taking that from where she landed. So you have the right to go through the full trial, which is what your constitutional right. But then if you now choose to enter into plea bargain, now remember you can actually plead guilty simpliciter without entering into plea bargain. The law allows you to plead guilty to an offense. But when you do that, there is no, nobody is compelled to give you any benefit. So practically, sometimes judges take that into consideration in giving you a lesser sentence, but they are not bound to do so. Now, what the plea bargaining does is that you are able to actually arrange with the prosecutor and say, okay, I'm going to plead guilty to this offense. Let's say there's an option for a fine, there's an option for imprisonment, but I don't want to go to prison, so give me a fine. So, for example, if you jam a red light, you can actually go to jail, but the court can also fine you. So, if you are going to enter to plea bargain,
then you can
actually say that, okay, I don't want the jail option, but I want the fine option. Then you can actually negotiate that. And once it gets to court and then the court agrees, then you can plead guilty and then you take the fine.
It sounds simple, but then on the other hand, people have the view that we may be letting criminals off the hook, right?
Well, that is not entirely the case because in any event, at the end of a full trial, there's either going to be a conviction or an acquittal. Now, when if the accused person is convicted, the judge has the discretion based on the prescriptions for sentencing
to just go ahead,
pronounce sentence. But what plea bargain does is to shorten the process. It's not entirely letting the accused person off the hook, but it's to give both sides some benefit, facilitate the entire criminal trial, and then in the end, it's a win-win. So the state is able to secure conviction. The accused person is also able to get maybe a lesser sentence, which perhaps the judge might have even given him that lesser sentence anyway. And so it's just a matter of avoiding going to court for 3 years, 4 years, being on remand, and the population of remand prisoners going up yearly. I mean, all of these benefits are
and Cletus, for those who do not know about the direct impact on our judicial system, have we thought about that?
Yes, in fact, I will just to add to what he said before I answer your direct question. It's rather than letting offenders off the hook, it's actually the opposite. Because once you are into plea bargain, you are going to plead guilty. So you definitely...
So you have admitted even in the first place that you've committed the crime.
And then definitely punishment follows. What you can get most times is probably reduced sentence, or like I said, where there's an option for a fine or a jail, you can go. So you may get some benefit of it, but you are not letting anybody off the hook. That is totally out. Now back to your question. It's the judicial justice system, especially the criminal justice, is very constrained. there are a lot of backlogs in the court, and that's why people go to court and they get frustrated.
And they keep going
and
back
then you
and
get
forth. Right.
and a simple case like jumping a red light, for example, you can be in court for up to a year or 2 if you plead not guilty.
Whoa.
Because the police will have to call their witnesses. You have to call your witnesses, address to court, and back and forth and all those things. So just a simple case like jumping a red light, if you plead not guilty, you can actually go to court and then
you may end up spending more.
You spend more money. The court is constrained because there are other serious cases probably the court will need to deal with, but they also have to handle all these cases. The fact that it's small doesn't mean that they can jump the wheel of justice. So they have to still go through the same process. And so you have this chunk of cases piled up in court, which is causing delays in the courtroom. And it's also one of the reasons that we have a lot of remand prisoners, because the cases are not actually moving. Right. So people are on remand. They go to court
a very long time.
and then they are there. Sometimes they might, even if they had been jailed, they probably would have been finished serving their sentence, but they are still there. So some of the benefits is to free up the case load in the courts, free up prisons, especially for remand prisoners, and not only even for remand prisoners, even for people who are convicted. Because if you are convicted, say, and then there's an option of a fine, and you get a fine, you release a prison rather than being put in jail for some minor offenses.
And then we know that this is a new law. So obviously the education, the awareness around it may be low. At LADA Institute, are you putting in place some measures, at least just to create more awareness on this?
Yes, so this is the first phase of the awareness creation. And like you said, the law just came in July. It was assented sometime in July. And so this is still like an early stage of the public education. But yes, there are plans to sustain this and then make sure that as time goes on, the education is intensified. There are plans of extending it into the prisons so that those persons on remand can also get to know of it. And if they opt or they want to take that advantage, they can also...
But as we speak, it's effective.
Yes.
So someone can just take advantage of it. It's not as though it's law anyway.
Yes, it is law.
Right. But do we have someone testing the law? Because I guess when the law comes out, it's practicalizing it or effecting it that we get to know how good or otherwise is it. Have we had that so far?
So like I said, the law just was assented in July. Right. And so, it's still early yet, but as education goes, and I'm sure in a couple of months, we may hear accused persons wanting to take advantage of it. And I'm sure that as the prosecution also gets to implement these things, we'll start hearing of the practical aspects of it, the actual cases where parties have opted for plea negotiations.
Are there some reforms necessary at this point? Maybe the early stages of implementing the law, but revising it and going through it personally, do you feel that there are some things we need to improve on?
I believe it's early yet. So we would have to give the law some time to merge with the system. And that is when we will see where the shortfalls are, what things we need to build up on. Then we can take it from there.
Okay, Cletus, let's talk about even lawyers, right? The fact that the longer the case travels, the more you make money. So if you're going with a plea bargaining, that's going to come at some cost to the lawyers.
Not really. In fact, there are instances where you will finish spending the money and then the case will still be dragging for years on ending. And I don't think the interest of every lawyer is to ensure that his client gets what he wants. And so if entering into plea bargain is what will be beneficial to the client, you negotiate with the client, and then you also get your fees out of it. It's not as if because you're going to enter into plea bargain. Because, mind you, even during the plea bargaining stage, you will need the assistance of a lawyer. Right. In fact, under the law, if the person if a child is involved, it's mandatory that they get a lawyer. And if you can't afford the services of a lawyer, you have to get a lawyer from legal aid to assist. Right. Yeah. So even going through the plea bargaining process itself, you will need legal assistance. Right. You will need to weigh your options. You will need a lawyer to advise you on your options, whether to even enter into it or not. And so it will not spoil any lawyer's business.
Right. But let's get into who can benefit out of this. Okay. Do we have a specific category that the law specifies as to who qualifies to benefit from this law? Yeah.
So I'm going to answer this in two phases. Okay. So the first is that accused persons, the prosecution and the state these are the parties that benefit.
Okay.
There are various benefits that inure to the parties. Sure. But then also, it isn't every accused person that can take advantage of this law. The law, when you look at Section 162R, it creates exemptions. So there are some category of offenses that if you are charged with, you are not entitled under this law to take advantage of plea bargain. So we have treason and high treason, high crime, abduction, piracy, hijacking.
So it's not a free-for-all thing.
No, it is not. Offenses relating to public elections, murder, attempted murder, rape, defilement. These are some of the offenses that if you are charged with, you cannot take advantage of. And you see that these offenses are grievous. Some are even capital. Right. So there's that exemption so that plea bargain does not apply to these. Yes.
So these are the exemptions. So how about individuals? So if for those who, some people are already in jail, there are some people who have been convicted. Is there any hope for them in this? Maybe Cletus will take that.
No, once your case has traveled through, because the purpose of
lost the opportunity.
Yeah, the purpose of this one is actually to avoid going through the trial. And so if you have gone through trial and you've been convicted already, that is closed. That one, your option definitely will be to appeal and see how it will work. But if you are on remand or your case has even traveled far, now the law actually gives that laxity. You can enter into plea bargain at any stage of the trial until final judgment is pronounced. And so until the judge has convicted you at any stage, you can. So even if you have done 90% of the full trial and you still feel that when you weigh your options, you still feel that entering into plea bargain will be beneficial to you, you can at that stage notify the Attorney General that you want to enter into plea bargain.
But then with someone who's seeking, for instance, a review, as you're pointing out, can they also take advantage of it?
No, the plea bargain applies only to the trial process. And so once the trial is concluded, the plea bargain law doesn't come in again.
Now, who is mandated by this law to enter into the plea bargaining for you? I guess that's something we need to look at.
Yeah,
right?
so every accused person, like she explained, can enter into plea bargaining. That is on the side of the accused. He can act on his own or act by a lawyer if he chooses, except for juveniles where the law mandates that they compulsory have a lawyer. On the other side is the state. Now the state is the Attorney General. And you know that in some of our courts, there are police prosecutors who are not lawyers. Okay. And so the law actually says that every prosecutor prosecutes on behalf of the Attorney General. Okay. And so once you enter into a plea bargain, if you are not from the Attorney General's office, you will need to get a copy to the Attorney General's for them to review and be satisfied with it before it's approved. So eventually, the final decision lies with the Attorney General's office. So the fact that plea bargain is an agreement, so the fact that the accused person wants a plea bargain does not necessarily mean that the state is mandated or bound to accept the plea bargain. Right. You have to bring your terms, they bring their terms, and if you agree, then you agree on it. The Attorney General's office gives the final approval if they are okay with it before it's presented to court. And even when it gets to court, the judge has the option to reject it.
I was just about going there. The issue about the judge. How central is the judge to plea bargaining?
All right, so there are two stages where the court becomes involved. Okay. Now, at the beginning, so where parties want to enter into a plea bargain, one party proposes, I want to enter into plea bargain, and the prosecution agrees to, negotiate. Yeah. They are mandated by the law to inform the court. That's the first stage where the court gets involved. They are mandated to inform the court. And then the court grants an adjournment for parties to go. So the trial stands adjourned for parties to go and then do the negotiations. Right. Now, when all of that is concluded and the plea agreement has been signed and filed in court, then the court again becomes involved at that stage for considering the plea agreement. And so like Cletus said, the court can do two things, either accept or reject the plea agreement. Now, in accepting, the court has to consider three things. One of it is, does the facts support the charge? The court would also consider whether the accused person had sound mind at the time of the negotiation, entering it. Right. Yes, and finally, if it was voluntary on the part of the accused person. So if all of these things are present, or the court is satisfied that these factors are present, the court would accept. Now, if the court decides to reject, the court would have to state reasons. Perhaps the court disagrees with the proposed sentence, for example. Looking at the facts, the judge thinks, no, it was too grievous, or there are what we call aggravating circumstances, and so the judge refuses to accept the sentence that has been proposed. The judge has that right to reject it, and then parties go back and renegotiate. So that refusal, that ruling refusing it cannot be appealed against. What you have to do is to renegotiate, because the whole thing, you're trying to facilitate the process.
So how then do you come out of it? And Cletus, probably you'd want to take care of that for us in terms of coming out of the whole situation and going back to the trial. Is that possible?
Yes.
For you to say, okay, well, it didn't work on the first attempt, so let's try once more to go the full length, and if indeed I'm complicit, then you can go ahead and try me.
Yes, so you can result from the agreement at any time until the judge has eventually accepted and passed judgment. When the judge accepts the plea agreement and passes sentence, you are closed. Your case is closed there. But until that stage, at any stage, even the day the judge is going to accept it, before he accepts it, you can say that, look, I signed this agreement, but I no longer want to go on. I want to go to full trial. And the judge doesn't have a say there. They just have to allow you to go to the full trial. When the judge also rejects the agreement, you have an option to go back, like she said, to renegotiate, or say, okay, if you don't like this agreement, then let's go to the full trial. And so that option is also there. That either you can do renegotiation, because it's a negotiation, so until you come out with an agreement which is acceptable by the court. At any stage, you can, if the court rejects 10 times, you can go and come back 10 times. Which is what
will that affect the quality of your case, for instance, and what's happening before the courts?
No, you see, the law, to avoid prejudice, everything involving the plea negotiations, if you decide to go to the full trial, it cannot be used against you. It is what we call the without prejudice agreement. And so whatever that you say during the plea agreement, or whatever that document that you sign during the plea agreement, if the agreement fails and you have to go to full trial, all those things cannot come in against you at all. They have to rely on whatever that they had before you do all those things to prosecute. So it won't affect the quality of your case.
Okay, let's talk about the rights of the individual and counsel when it comes to entering the plea bargaining. Who has the utmost power to decide?
Well,
maybe Becca will take that for us.
All right, so I think Cletus mentioned earlier that if it has to do with a juvenile, then there's that mandatory requirement that there be a counsel. And also the juvenile doesn't get involved alone. So there's a parent or a guardian or whoever is acting as a guardian ad litem.
To be there.
Yes, so the juvenile is never alone. If it has to do with an adult accused person who is an adult too, you can opt to enter into it without counsel. You can also choose to engage the services of counsel. And if you have counsel, the negotiation is between the counsel and prosecution. Of course, the understanding at the bar and even in law that the counsel acts on the instruction of the client. And so there's that presumption that whatever the counsel is doing is on the instruction
doing that together.
Exactly of the accused person. So there really isn't who has power and who is,
So it's got to do much more with negotiating your way out.
Exactly, but also still within the limits of the law. Now, you see, offenses, every offense has a punishment for it. So even if you are negotiating, you can't negotiate out of the law. So if the law says, for example, that the minimum sentence for this offense is 2 years, you cannot say, me, I want 1 year. That won't work. Okay, so you have to still negotiate within
the bounds of the law. Yes. Interesting. And we need to go. Let me give the final words to both of you, a minute each. I'll start off with you, Becca.
Okay, so I'd say that this is an innovative legislation, and as LADA Institute, we look forward to this law taking seed in our criminal justice system, because we foresee that the benefit is going to be immense, both to the state and to the accused person. And so we really look forward to having that implementation really grounded in our criminal justice system.
And for you, Cletus?
Yeah, so plea bargaining in most of these developed countries is actually one of the ways which they try to, one of the innovative ways they've used to shorten trials and to ensure speedy trial of criminal offenses. Because even under the Constitution, your right to fair trial includes trial within a reasonable time. So the law even allows, the Constitution even grants you that right. And so this is one of the ways we can actually use to shorten trials and then free our prisons. So it's a very good law. I'm sure in the coming days, a lot of people will take advantage of it. And then maybe we all see the benefit of it.
Yeah, and we'll see how it goes. But obviously, we can wish you the best at LADA Institute. Thank you, Rebecca and Cletus, for joining us. Well, time now to take you to Parliament. Speaker Alban Bagbin has mounted a strong defense of his decision to refer the Privileges Committee report on absentee MPs to the entire House for a vote in his ruling, which has been criticized by the New Patriotic Party MPs. The Speaker said his decision on representation is such a crucial one that cannot be left to only a few persons. The majority have indicated their intention to challenge the ruling, with an MPP MP already headed to the Supreme Court. Speaking to journalists, the Speaker indicated that the ruling was apt.
If you've had access to read the report, you understand the basis of my ruling. You know, representation is so key to democratic governance, to be left to the subjective decision of any individual or group of people. It must be the whole. And that report, after reading that report, I went behind the report to do investigation as to what happened at the committee meetings. And I'm not satisfied with what happened there. There's no way that this can go without the whole House being given the opportunity to debate it. The heavens can come down, but that one, the whole House will have to debate it and come out with a decision. It's not the Speaker that has to declare the vacation of the seat. Okay? When they say something is automatic, it is somebody that must make it automatic. To start with, the attention must be drawn that the person has been absent for more than 15 sittings. I should say for 15 sittings. 15 or more sittings. There must be some search to know that the Speaker has not given a written permission. These are questions of facts. And that cannot be established just by an individual. The Speaker every day I give permissions. And there's no way that with this heavy load on me, I'll be able to say that, oh, I didn't give this one permission, or I gave this one 10, I gave this 20. No. You must get a team to do a research, to survey, get all the permissions and go through. Don't forget, they are human beings, and they can be subjected to influences. Even that, I'm still investigating it. And I've got reports from civil society organizations that are focused on Parliament. And they've gone to the extent of using the votes and proceedings, which is the basis for attendance. Don't forget that the Constitution doesn't say attendance to plenary session. It says attendance to Parliament. And Parliament is not only about plenary. And that is where I have a problem with the decision of the Supreme Court.
Well, the Speaker also gave the clearest indication that the House will pass the controversial promotion of proper human and sexual rights and Ghanaian family values bill. The bill, popularly referred to as the anti-gay bill, has been criticized by some activists as one that will infringe on the human rights of such persons. But the Speaker says gay rights are no human rights.
Sexual rights and human values bill that is being handled by the committee, definitely we'll pass it before the next election. We'll pass it. That bill will go through. Yes. You see, when we talk about human rights, we are talking about things that will add value to the human being by way of creating opportunities of creating an equal playing ground, of giving some privileges and rights to each and every one of us, of removing all the restrictions and hurdles to make you more freer. That's what we call human rights. Anything negating from that cannot be a right. Cannot. And don't forget that rights go with responsibilities. And duties go with obligations. It's not just, even the Almighty God in heaven, he has rules. And that's why that boy called Lucifer, when he went against the rules, God dealt with Lucifer. And Lucifer was cast down to the earth. And we gave him the name Satan. We don't call him Lucifer on earth. We call him what? Satan. And his boys are the demons, the principalities, and the devils.
Speaker of Parliament Alman Bagbin there. Time now to focus on the health sector. The Medical and Dental Council says it is concerned about the huge number of medical professionals, especially medical doctors, leaving the country to seek opportunities abroad. The issue has been the subject of a JoyNews investigation where many doctors and nurses are said to be unhappy in Ghana due to the conditions under which they work and are now taking up opportunities in Europe, America, and the Middle East. At a ceremony to induct newly qualified medical and dental practitioners over the weekend, a member of the Medical and Dental Council, Dr. Constance Addo Yobo, pleaded with the newly qualified doctors not to seek greener pastures abroad. We'll get into all of that, but Fred is with us. He is the head of our health desk. Fred Smith, thank you for joining us. So how much of a problem is this for the health sector in terms of nurses and not just doctors, we need to stress that, leaving the country to seek greener pastures?
Indeed, in the last few months, we've heard, we got information that many of our doctors, nurses and other health professionals were leaving the country, and so we started some investigations into that. Now, we have spoken to a number of them who have left already. We have also spoken to some who want to leave. All of these on condition of anonymity. We put in an RTI request to see if we can get some numbers to back the data or the information that we're receiving. In fact, there's confirmation from all fronts. The Ghana Medical Association is confirming that yes, a good number of their members are heading out, especially to the United Kingdom, the United States, Australia, where their services are needed. You know, because of COVID, health systems around the world are stretched, and therefore countries with the resources are now attracting those health professionals from abroad. What is happening is that the health professional in Ghana is saying, well, the economy is getting bad, the inflation is up, and therefore it's eroding any pay increase that I may have had in the last few weeks or months. And so, yeah, I'd like to take up that job.
Europe and the Americas, are we having a clear idea of which countries these doctors are mostly
Well,
leaving?
the United Kingdom specifically, it's a big market where many of our doctors are attracted, and especially because of language and considering the number of Ghanaians you'll be able to meet there, it's so easy to integrate into that system. So yes, then we have the United States also for similar reasons. We have Australia also, similar reasons. So you can see what it is, but the economies in these countries are very strong and therefore attract.
And how concerned are authorities about this and the likely impact on our system?
Well, the point is that we're nowhere near the patient-to-doctor ratio that we require as a country. And so that's how come the government puts in all that they can to ensure that we're able to train a good number of doctors. So right after training, then we have them leaving. Remember that locally, some don't want to even be posted to rural areas. It's a big challenge there. So we, at the weekend, we heard Dr. speaking at the induction of the newly trained or newly qualified doctors, where she appealed to them not to abandon the country and travel abroad. We can hear her.
Do not be tempted to look for greener pastures in places like the UK and other EEC countries, as some of your colleagues are already doing. Let us halt this brain drain. It has taken the taxpayer a lot to invest in your education. Now, as the saying goes, let us all stay in Ghana, because if you any fear, and as they say, nowhere cool.
Also, Fred, that's the concern.
Dr. Ayubo,
right.
She's a member of the Medical and Dental Council. So for her to raise this issue, it tells you it's a big matter for her. And at next weekend, the Ghana Medical Association, that's the union of doctors in Ghana, will be holding their annual conference in Bogatanga in the Upper East region. And the biggest issue on their table for this year has to do with the brain drain, the departures that we're seeing in the sector.
Indeed, and it's a big concern. Fred Smith, thank you for joining us. Now, after close to 6 months in hospital, the 9-year-old girl whose hand was literally boiled by her stepmother at Gosu in the Hafo region has been discharged from the Konfanoche Teaching Hospital. Stephanie, her condition of the deteriorating hand was brought to the attention of the health officials late amidst fears of amputation. Through a series of surgeries and treatments largely sponsored by the management of the Mensen Gold BBNE Limited and other donors, her hand has been saved. But doctors say she will need a series of physiotherapy sessions to regain function of some of her fingers. So Lava FM's Erastus Saridonko has been following up on that.
The wife of a Pentecost elder, Reverend Stephen Nketia, who brought the girl to stay with her, held her hands in boiling water for taking her 2 cedis. For 6 agonizing months, little Stephanie has gone through pain in an attempt to save her hand from amputation. Dr. Emil Tano is head of the plastic surgery team that attended to her.
When she came for the first time, the hand was almost cooked. We have to improve the function of the hand. And I think that we are able to achieve that, even though we didn't get 100%. Now she will be able to use the finger to grab something or to write. And then we'll continue now with the hand physiotherapy to improve the function further. Maybe in future we may need to, to do maybe some few corrective surgeries here and there, but now I think that what we have is quite satisfactory.
Stephanie is happy and grateful to be discharged, but worries about the state of her hand now.
It was quite an unfortunate incident.
Esther Nyakumpuatin, Principal Nursing Officer in charge of the D2C Benz unit, explains the result attained.
We've been able to get this far. It's not the best though, but it's one of the best results considering how the injury came. It came quite late, so we couldn't do a lot for her, but then we've done our best. We prayed that people would prevent burns in their homes so that these incidents will not come.
Individuals, including the husband of the accused and the Wadoma Foundation, donated to her upkeep.
God bless you. We pray for strength and ability for you.
But Mensen Gold BBNE Limited took over all her surgeries and medical expenses, including money for her upkeep. Emmanuel Edu is sustainability manager of the company.
At Mensen, one of the core principles in our community engagement is to follow our corporate mothers Asante Care principle. We look at some of these things that are very heartbreaking, that you need intervention for the survival of the needy. And board and management or executives of Asante were happy to support Mensing Gold to make sure that we provide the required support to making sure that Stephanie regains her health, regains her hand, and gets reintegrated into society, especially for her to go back to school. And so we are very excited. We will continue to engage all relevant stakeholders so that whatever she may need, we will look at what we are capable of doing, consider it, and probably come appropriately.
Police say they are ready to continue with prosecution of the woman at the center of the abuse, who has since been going to court. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko, Kumasi.
And quite a touching story there. But on that note, to wrap up the polls here on the Joy News channel, I am blessed Sogah. Do log on to myjoyonline.com. We have updates there for you. Enjoy the rest of the day. And next is Let's Talk Showbiz.